What was your routine and ritual like after every game? Would you watch almost every game over or certain games?
All of them.
Every game you watch?
Every game.
The whole game back?
The whole game. He had a great quote that said, "Rest at the end, not in the middle." And that's something I always live by. You know, I'm not going to rest. I'm going to keep on pushing now. There are a lot of answers that I don't have, even questions that I don't have. But I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep going, and I'll figure these things out as we go, right? And you just continue to build that way. So I try to live by that all the time. Understanding that, okay, if you want to accomplish something, I'm not just going to sit here and say, yes, you can do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. Yes, you can, but you have to also put in the work to get there, right? And you grow up as a kid thinking that the world is your oyster. All things are possible if you put in the work to do it. And you grow up having that fundamental belief.
Yeah.
It's a simple thing of math. If you want to be a great player, if you play every single day, 2-3 hours, every single day, over the course of a year, how much better are you getting? Most kids will play maybe, an hour and a half, 2 days a week. When you're in this culture in our society, you can do some phenomenal things individually, but they'll never reach their full potential unless you do them collectively. And you have to figure out how to do that. And Phil Jackson was great at that. Mm-hmm. Phil, he wouldn't just coach the team or coach the game, but he'd read everything about every single player. Really? Learn about your history, how you grew up, how you were raised, where were you raised. He'll read every interview, and he'll learn about you, and gives him a better understanding of what's motivating you, or what your insecurities are, right? And then it just helps him communicate with you better, or even push a button here if he needs to.
What do you think the biggest challenge is for most athletes after they retire?
I think it's the fear of starting anew, and that was certainly present for me as well.
Really?
Yeah,
like
because
identity, you mean, or?
Well, it's starting from scratch, right? Because when you play for 20 years, I played for 20 years, you reach a certain level, you're like, okay, wait a minute, I have to start again at the base of a mountain and try to climb the top of this mountain. First of all, what mountain am I climbing? I don't even know, like, what the hell am I going to be doing? And it's very scary. It's very scary.
Even for you?
Oh, absolutely. Wow. Absolutely. And the thing that helped me actually was hurting my Achilles, because that forced me to sit there and say, okay, the day could be today that your career is over.
At any time when you were playing, you mean, yeah.
Now what do you do? You have these ideas about doing something with your life after basketball, but what if today is the day that's it? Now what do you do? So I had all this time sitting there with my Achilles injury and contemplating and thinking, and I said, I better get to work.
Wow.
And that was that. Because the first question I asked, which is the wrong question, is what's the biggest industry I can get into?
Was it more money thinking?
Yes,
or
money thinking. Saying, okay, athletes are saying you can't make more revenue when you retire. This is your source of your income is here. Saying, okay, that's a challenge. What can I do? Mm-hmm. And I remember going for.
Didn't you launch a fund or something?
I did. And so I went for a ride, and I said, okay, stop thinking of it that way. You're thinking of it the wrong way. Why did you start playing basketball? Because I loved it. All right, what do you love to do? Oh, well, I love to tell stories. All right, let's do that. And then that's where it started for me. And then on top of that, it became things like, you start learning more about the financial industry and about players going broke once they retire, and saying, okay, how can I minimize the chances of that happening? What are things that I can do to invest my money smartly? Also help control some of that outcome to a certain extent.
Right.
And that's when I called Mike Rapoli. Mike Rapoli was an entrepreneur who built Vitamin Water and Pirates Food and some other companies, and started learning from him.
Well, what does losing feel like to you?
It's exciting.
Why is it exciting?
Because it means you have different ways to get better. There's certain things that you can figure out that you can take advantage of, right? Certain weaknesses that were exposed that you need to shore up, right? So it was exciting. I mean, it sucks to lose,
right?
But at the same time, there are answers there if you just look at them.
Because you get the information from losing more than from winning, probably.
Yeah. I mean, the answers are there when you win too. You just have to look at them.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a constant process. It's exciting when you win. It's exciting when you lose, because the process should be exactly the same. whether you win or you lose, is you go back and you look and you find things that you could have done better. You find things that you've done well that worked. You figure out how did they work, why did they work, how can you make them work again?
Yeah.
And but the hardest thing is to face that stuff. That's a really, really tough challenge.
You mean face it? You mean look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, this is how I showed up, or this is what happened? And
I'll give you an example. So Katie Lou Samuelson is one of the best college basketball players in the country. She plays at UConn. She's going to be a senior.
right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
And she's from Huntington Beach, out here by us. And so she comes down and she works with some of my girls on the team, and she helps coach. And,
Yeah.
and they just had a really tough season last year where they lost to Notre Dame in the final.
That's right.
Really tough.
First loss in like
First loss.
years, right?
Yeah. And so I asked her, I said, have you watched the Notre Dame game? She was like, no. I said, well, why not? I said, I don't want to watch that. I said, I know you don't, but you're going to play Notre Dame this year, yeah? Yeah. What's the chances you see him again in the final? Well, you probably see him again. I said, well, you can't show up and play them without knowing why you lost that one, right? So, you know, the mistakes that you've made in that game, you have to do the hard stuff and watch that game and study that game to not make those mistakes over and over again just because you weren't brave enough to face it. So she came down to the office. I brought her down to the office and we sat down, we watched that game together.
Wow.
Right? And you gotta deal with
Face
it.
it.
Gotta deal with it. Face it, learn from it.
You're still waking up, or at least you're in the gym at 4 a.m. working out. Why still wake up that early and train at this level in your life right now?
Well, I mean, there's several factors for that. Like when I first retired, I let myself go a little bit.
Really? You got a little?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
a little chubby life?
Oh, it was awesome. I was like,
You
eat
enjoyed
whatever.
everything.
Oh man, I'm eating. What? In and
Might as
out,
well, man.
bring it to me. Let's go. Steak? Oh, let's go. Right? Milkshakes?
Ice
Let's do it.
cream, yeah,
Let's do
man.
it. And then the challenge was, okay, can I get back in shape?
Oh.
And it's really hard because there's no end goal. I'm
There's
not
no
training
game.
for
There's no
anything.
season. There's
Right.
no.
So how do you motivate yourself to do it?
How do you?
And so for me, it was like, okay, I have to aim for something. So I said, I want to aim for size. I want to aim for bulk, right? So that's a tangible thing. I'm going to go for that, right? But then also, it's my children, because your kids can't see how hard you work. You go to the office, I come in the studio, they don't really see the effort, right? So how can we teach our children what it means to work hard? Well, you do it through training, right? So when I get up in the morning, my daughter goes with me.
4 a.m.
4 a.m. My 15-year-old goes with me. She goes with me before school, and it becomes a daddy-daughter thing.
That's cool.
She just got a permit, right? So she drives in the morning. It becomes a cool thing, right? But through that process, she understands the value of hard work and things taking time.